morning, everyone. My name is Jayaan Benjamin, and welcome to our final webinar in our series, Becoming Successful in Your Career. Thanks for joining us on this 4-part series where we will provide an inside perspective into the careers of 4 successful women and the challenges they have faced on their respective journeys. For more information regarding upcoming events and webinars, join our subscription list or go to our website, shapeyourfuture.us. So without any further ado, today we will be getting an inside look into the life of jewelry brand owner, Youre Strydom. Thanks for joining us, Youre.
Hi, Jayaan. Thanks for having me. As everybody heard, my name is Youre Strydom. I'm the founder and creative director of Youre Jewels. Youre Jewels was established in August of 2020, so it's still quite a new business. And a little bit about my business is that we specialize in freshwater pearl jewelry. And as you know, pearls are quite a classic item that have been worn throughout the decades, usually a symbol of luxury and elitism. But I've taken the pearl and given it a modern twist where it appeals to a younger consumer and that it's an accessible way to easily elevate your everyday outfits.
Well, thank you for first starting that business and for joining our webinar, because I definitely know freshwater pearls can be quite expensive, and usually it's in, that string of pearls that you see like a grandmother wear. It's not usually found in a modern type of style that people that are the younger generation usually look for. So it's a good thing I think you chose the right market to get into. So I think we'll start with the first question, which is obviously what made you decide to start your own business?
So I think that, the idea of having my own business was something that was, brewing around in my head for a long time. But the opportunity never really presented itself. And I built my career in the fashion industry. And I've worked for over 7 years in various brand management and marketing capacities for both local and global companies. I had established my career in the Middle East and South Africa, having lived in Dubai for 4 years. And most recently, I was working for a Turkish retailer. And unfortunately, when we went into the first lockdown, shortly after March 2020, we got the news that the company would be closing down. To be honest, there wasn't a lot of thought that went into my business at the time. I didn't have a grand scheme or a strategy of how things were going to play out, but I just knew instinctively that I had to do something. And I saw this when I lost the job or got returned from my job, I just saw this as the kind of golden ticket to do what I've always wanted to do, and that is to start my own business. So with a little bit of savings that I have, and I put a business plan together, I found suppliers and I launched Youre Jewels, and that was our beginning.
Well, that actually sounds really amazing. And I mean, to take something that happened so drastically in such a difficult time for everybody and turn it into something that is so wonderful. And now you're your own boss. You don't have to worry about reporting to anybody. You can just do your own thing. And you'll really make like a good profit, I guess, from the jewelry business, instead of, I guess, getting like an everyday salary, because this is your business. You are the one that runs it. And hopefully it'll like grow into a much bigger business in the future.
Well, that's the hope, and that's why I'm very dedicated to the brand and to the work that goes behind the scenes. I'm a one-man show at the moment, so there's a lot on my plate. There's a lot of aspects to a business, but I do believe that with hard work and determination and with a clear intention and consistency, we all can achieve our goals in our businesses and in our personal lives.
So I guess the following from that, I guess we want to know, so how did you end up where you are today? Like, what specific processes did you have to go through to get this business running?
So I guess, there's a lot of back-end things that, goes into starting a business. Number one, registering a business company name. That's one of the most obvious starting points, but kind of more about my story and why I landed specifically onto jewelry is actually, when I think about it now, it's kind of like a funny story in a way, but basically I had studied at UCT for 4 years, a bachelor's degree in organizational psychology and industrial sociology, and kind of knew then that, that wasn't the path that I really wanted to go onto for my career. So following that, I decided that I would really like to go and study jewelry design because I figured I was more of a creative person and I would be better working with my hands. Unfortunately, at that point in time, I couldn't, there were 2 kits you needed. One was a jeweler's kit and one was an art kit. And I wasn't employed at that time. And unfortunately, I didn't have the funds to go through purchasing the kits. However, this course that was offered by CPUT at the time only accepted 20 participants into their program, and I was one of the 20 that was accepted. But like I said, unfortunately, because of financial constraints, I wasn't able to actually go ahead with the jewelry course. And what I remember distinctively is that the course convener and professor said to me, she said, because I was distraught at the fact that I couldn't do it. And she said to me, if this is meant for you, it will come back to you in your life. And it was something that I'd forgotten by the wayside for so long, but suddenly when I got this idea about freshwater pearl jewelry, I remembered her words. And that sort of really spurred me on to say, like, maybe this is a sign of the universe. Maybe there's, maybe the universe has been conspiring in my favor, and maybe this is just my time. So I really took that as a sign to start a business. And then, yes, it was the very practical parts of starting a business is, understanding, first of all, what your business is about, what your strategy is about. Are you a self-funded business? Do you get investments from other investors? Setting up your shipping and logistics, finding supplies and building those relationships to make sure that, your supply chain is always, the products that you need are always available. Because one of the challenges I face now, especially and a lot of small businesses are facing in the light of COVID, is that, the access to the supplies are quite limited. And because there's a delay on shipments coming into South Africa, or most countries, I suppose, you might find that you have to adjust your strategy. You might not be able to find the supplies that you have. So it's also about being really agile and being able to pivot and, to adapt and make the best out of what you do have in these challenging times for all of us.
No, I definitely understand. And I mean, with jewelry specifically, the shipping has been quite difficult, and people don't really always understand that maybe you don't have a certain supply because of the time delays. So it can be a bit stressful, but I'm sure you've made it easier on yourself just to deal with situations like that.
Well, yes, like I said, you have to be agile and you have to roll with the punches in a lot of scenarios. And again, this is where I'll also stress that relationship building is so key for any business, because relationships are symbiotic and we give and we take from relationships. And that can be with, it could be if I was wholesaling my jewelry to another account, that's a relationship that needs to be built. Specifically with suppliers, that's also a relationship that has to be built, because you sort of want that supplier to favor you over somebody else. So you need to start building these relationships, talking to your suppliers, understanding how they can meet your needs, especially in such a trying time where the access to the supplies are limited.
Well, that does make a lot of sense. And, I guess we'd want to know, what does a typical working day look like for you? Because they speak about the supplies and everything, but what does a business owner, a jewelry business owner, do on a regular basis?
So for me, a typical day, I start with, just attending to my social media. That's always first on my list. So I try to always post my Instagram stories and post in the first section of the morning while I start with that. And the next thing I would go on to is sort of more of administrative tasks, like checking emails, checking, accounts and balances, doing a little bit of financial reconciliation and financial planning. And then there's the very practical part of making the jewelry, because I do hand make the jewelry myself. So there's a portion of the day, obviously, that gets allocated to making the jewelry based on orders that have come in. And further than that, then I try to do a little bit of strategizing, where I want to take the brand in the future. Am I looking for any brand partnerships in terms of collaborating with other brands or stores, or collaborating with influencers? And and then towards the end of my day, I start just setting the goals and objectives for the following day. And then the next day, we are so lucky to be able to do it all again.
Well, it sounds like you've got a really good schedule kind of routine going, because sometimes, like when you start a new business, it's a bit overwhelming and all over the place, but it seems like you've settled into a really good routine that is structured in a way that really gets you going.
Yes, it was something that I had to learn early on, because the difference between going from a 9-to-5 job to owning your own business is that when you're in the 9-to-5 environment, obviously your day is structured for you. There's certain things that you have to do. You have to be in the office at a certain time. However, working for yourself and owning your own business, you suddenly don't have that structure anymore, and you kind of start grasping at what should I be doing now? What is the thing that I need to prioritize? And most recently, I've learned the importance of a solid morning routine. I think that not to have a routine is not to be strict or stringent, but I think it sets you up for a productive day, and it helps you to achieve your goals that day. And also, objective and goal setting is very important, because it gives you the direction that your day has to take. And when you prioritize the most important tasks, you make sure that you're getting those done, and then you can focus on the other things. So as you were saying, yes, structure and routine has been critical in, providing myself with a good schedule for my day, and allowing me to also be consistent in what I do.
Well, that sounds really wonderful. And I'm glad that you've started to get a good routine. And, setting your goals is always really important, because I feel like that is a stepping stone to really get things done.
Yeah, I guess without our goals, we don't know where we're going to.
Yeah, exactly. But along with goals, I guess also come certain challenges. So what would you say are some of the challenges that you have faced as a woman in your industry? Or just starting out?
I think, yes, there are a lot of challenges initially. Like personally for me, I didn't know, much about starting a business, and, all the different aspects it takes to getting there. I mean, it's not as simply as having a business idea and there it's that. Like I said, it's about finding suppliers. It's about, registering your business, understanding, finances, measuring those finances every month. And I'm not a very financial person, so those were challenges for me. But I must say that, nowadays, there's a lot of apps and also free resources that are very helpful to people who are starting out, especially if you don't have a big budget to, pay specialized people to do these things for you. You can sort of be a little bit more self-sufficient in accessing those free resources and using it to your best of your ability. Also it's about, I guess, like I said, one of the challenges also was securing suppliers and raw materials, which was a challenge that I faced. And yeah, just sort of like day-to-day things that come up, that can be challenging and frustrating. And as a new business owner, I've definitely had my days where I'm frustrated. I have my doubts, because the reality of starting a new business is that you're starting it from the ground up. You're building your audience, you're building trust in your brand, you're building trust in the products that you're putting out there. And, you're trying to generate new leads for customers, and at the same time retaining your customers. So the whole scope of a new business, especially if you have a limited budget, can be very challenging. But like I said, there are a lot of free resources that we can access. And, I think that now is also a great time for women in business, because we see a lot more women-owned businesses or women-led businesses. And I think, that gives other women, I think that we can encourage each other, and that we inspire each other to, really go for it and make our mark in this market that's been so dominated by men in the past. And, you know, the more women do it, the stronger we get as a collective. And in South Africa, there's special funding for women in business. And we can also access those things to help us out when we are starting. And yes, I think that they are creating, in South Africa, they are creating more room for in the market for women-owned businesses, which is great as well.
Well, I think that's really wonderful. And it's you know, as a woman, it is quite challenging, and it's good that there are those resources and that the gates are opening for us, because you know, it is true, like a lot of men, there's a lot of male-owned businesses, but not a lot of female-owned businesses. And especially in the jewelry industry, there are a lot of businesses, like the high-end companies, that are owned by predominantly males. You don't really hear a lot about like female-owned businesses, especially like at your malls or your high-end retailers when it comes to jewelry. But I think, you know, it's good that there are doors that are opening and that there are opportunities that are helping women come to the forefront of the industries.
For sure.
Okay, so I guess the last question, this one is a really big one that we like to focus on because I feel like it really gives students some good insider perspective. But we want to know, what advice would you give to students that you knew when you were starting out? Like something that you really think that could benefit people just when they are like in that situation where they're really struggling and thinking, that really helped you.
Well, what I would first say is that as a young student, you know, it's okay if you haven't got it all figured out in the beginning, because as I explained my story, I didn't have it all figured out either. I studied something that's completely different to the path that I had taken, and that's okay. You know, like when you're still in your 20s, it's a time for self-development and really for, you know, identifying what it is that drives you as a person and what your passions are. I do believe to be successful in anything, even if it's starting a business or if you're in a job, you have to be passionate about it. Because when you're passionate about something, you operate in a different way, and your passion shines through in what you do. And in order to be successful, like I said, you need to have a strong determination. And, you know, that determination only comes from a deep passion for something that's going to push you, because things get tough and you're going to need that passion is what's going to push you through those obstacles and those hurdles that you're going to face. But at the phase of being a student, you know, just like try different things also. You know, if there's an idea that comes to your mind, try it out. Check it out. Is this really for me? Is this something I would enjoy doing? Because also when you're committing to a career, you're committing to it for the long term. You know, it's not something that you're going to change after 2 years. You've been studying for 4 years. You know, it's for the long haul, basically. So find your passions and really be passion driven, because it will speak volumes towards your employees one day, your employer, brands that you might work with, certain partnerships that you're going to like. People can really see passion and it speaks volumes. And, you know, the other thing that I'll give advice is, you know, don't take things too seriously. In your late teens and your 20s, you know, life is about enjoying. And yes, I know it's that part of our life where we're studying and things do get serious, but, you know, things get a lot more serious later on. So try to have fun, try to find your passions, and really just, you know, the best advice I can give is that you need to be determined. Things get really tough, and your determination is going to pull you through it. And also consistency is key. I know it's such an like old saying, but honestly, in any aspect of your life, if you work consistently on it, then you will achieve the results. It's the same thing, like, for example, if you want good skin, you know, you've got to have a good skincare routine. You've got to do that every day, every morning and every night. If you want a good physique, you've got to be working out all the time. It's consistency really leads to results, and it's good to just adopt those early routines to drive the consistency, and, you know, have a passion that's really going to drive your determination to be successful at the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially with having a routine and being consistent, especially with the skincare, because I know
Yes.
sometimes you just don't want to, but you have to. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you so much for being on our talk. And I don't know if you just want to give a little bit about Ula Jewels so that we could give some people some insight into the business itself, like where we can find you, how people can maybe purchase the items.
Yes, of course. So you can find us at Ula Jewels on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram. And we run an e-commerce store which can be accessed through www.ula.co.za. We would definitely appreciate it if you check out our website, give us a like and a follow on Facebook and Instagram. And as I mentioned before, we specialize in freshwater pearl jewelry, taking a modern twist on the classic pearl. And like you said earlier, this is not your grandma's pearl.
Definitely not. Thank you so much for speaking today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I wish everyone that watches this webinar much success in their future studies and all their ambitions and plans ahead.
Well, have a wonderful day, Tara. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.